Bug Implementer.
Welcome back. In this session, we are going to build this. A little game prototype where we can shoot enemies, run around, and the enemies try to reach the left side of the screen and we need to prevent them from getting there. It is a typical tutorial hell video, so to speak. You are not going to learn a lot inside of this, but a little bit, and you will get insights of how I approach this game development process inside of Godot, and you can try to copy and replicate it. And if you can manage to replicate this, then I am really proud of you. If it does not work, you can ask me questions down in the comments section and I try to answer your questions. But the focus point for this video should be variables. How I use them, how we use them inside of a real game prototype, what they are good for and what they can do for us. So your focus is on trying to replicate this on your computer, getting some insights here and there. Yeah, that's it. So let's jump right in. Let's start by getting the assets from itch.io. So you go to itch.io and go to game assets, and you basically pick the Tiny Swords asset pack, and you can download it now and you can click no thanks, or you can give the artist money. I think this is such a great asset pack. It's so cute. It's such a great art piece. I love it. And it's from Pixel Frog. So yeah, really appreciate. We use it for practicing, so I'm going to download it for free. I'm going to take this free pack right here. And if it is downloaded, perfect. We are ready to go. Now let's create a new project. I'm going to call it DPS or Daily Practice Session 14. You can call it whatever you want. And now I'm going to prepare the project setting up. The window size is the first thing I want to do. I go to Window and I'm going to change it to 1080p. We will create our first scene. I take the node of type node. I will call it main, or let's call it playground. This is our playground. And now I'm creating a new folder. I call it scenes. And inside of the scenes folder, I create a folder for this playground scene right here. And I'm going to save it. Now we have it right here. Now I think in my head, what did we see inside of the little demo I showed you in the start? We saw a player, we saw enemies, we saw some kind of background or level, we saw little arrows that the player can shoot, we saw little health bars, and yeah, that's kind of it. So now I'm going to prepare scenes for all of those entities or units or whatever you want to call it, for all those parts I have seen. So let's start with the player. Now I'm going to create a player scene, and I'm going to use the character body2D for it, and this needs a collision shape. I will edit a collision shape 2D. And the collision shape needs a shape. I am going to pick circle for now. So you go here in the shape property and attach a circle resource to it. Now I'm going to call it player, and I'm kinda adding an animated sprite 2D to it, create the sprite frames resource, and that's it for now. I'm going to save it in a new folder called player and save the scene inside of it. So now we have player and playground. This is just preparation, me preparing those scenes we are going to need. Now we need a enemy. we are going to do basically the same thing. Character, body 2D. We add a collision shape 2D. And let's add an animated sprite 2D as well. And let's add the sprite frames resource. And let's add the shape resource right here. This one we are going to call enemy. We are going to save it in a separate folder right here, call it enemy, and I'm going to save it. The last thing we need is an arrow. For this one, I will use the area 2D node, and this also needs a collision shape 2D, and we are going to set it to capsule. We will see why later. For this one, we just need a sprite. And now let's save it into our scenes folder. Let's call it arrow first. Now let's save it, create new folder, and call the folder arrow and save it inside. So now we have an arrow scene, an enemy scene, and a player scene, and a playground scene. And now before we start doing anything, we will hit the play button once and while inside the playground scene and select current. So now this is the starting scene of this project. So whenever we play the project or run the project, we will play this scene, this playground scene. This looks a bit empty, so we are going to prepare a tile map layer node. Let's call it background for now. Let's create an asset folder right here, assets. Here we are going to put in our downloaded assets. We're going to right click, open in file manager, and now you open up your downloads directory and just drag and drop it inside of this folder, assets folder. Now you can see we have those assets right here inside. The first thing I want to do is we want to make this a little bit more beautiful. Gray is a nice color, but let's make it more beautiful. Therefore, we are going to use the background tile map layer node. And here we can create a new tile set resource. And for this, we need to know what tile size this tile map has. And we can check it by going back to the downloads page and scroll down a bit. Awesome art, by the way. And scroll down a bit and we see the tile map grid is 64 by 64 pixels. This is all we need to know right now. I'm going to type it in right here. So 64 by 64. And now all we need to do is to switch to the tile set section right here, tab, create a new atlas resource, go to our assets section, select the terrain folder, and I'm going to choose this tile map color one. Hit OK and hit yes. And now we have our little tile map and we can draw it. This is the tile set. Here we are going to configure and do stuff with it. Yeah, basically configure it, but we do not need to do anything else right here. And now let's switch to the tile map section where we can use this tile set that we have prepared to actually draw it on screen. We are going to do it. I'm selecting this middle tile here. I'm going to use the rect tool. Make sure your select tool up here is selected and not the move tool, because you cannot draw stuff when this move tool is selected. So make sure that this is selected. And then I'm going to just draw everything with this tile right here. To make it a little bit more beautiful, I'm going to select those two and make it something like this. Let's see what this looks like. So now we have a little cliff right here. Okay, this is good enough. Now I'm going to copy this, duplicating basically, Command D, or right click, copy paste. And I'm going to call this decorations. Stop. We delete this again because we are going to do it a little bit different, because decorations are organized a little bit different. We can have a peek. So this brush is basically an animation. I can see it. It says strip animation frames. So we are going to use this a little bit different. Now I'm going to add a node to the and call it decorations. You can create nodes just for structuring and ordering. So I'm going to use this node to D just for order purposes. Now I'm going to add an animated sprite to D and call it bush or bush, however you want to call it, or however it is pronounced. We are going to call this idle. We're going to set it to 10 FPS. Now we can take this sprite sheet here and we are going to look for the decorations, bushes, and I'm going to take the bush 1 animation, hit the auto slice button and select them in order and add those 8 frames. I'm going to hit the autoplay on load so that it starts right on load. Let's see. And if you take a closer look, you can see that this... I know what is happening. We need to do something. So I clicked on this one and I wanted to enlarge it. But to make this work, we have to go to the project settings again, window. And we need to change the stretch mode. By now it is disabled. And we are going to use canvas items. This is the mode we are going to use. And I'm just leaving this as to keep. And basically what is happening now, we can stretch it now. Make sure this is enabled as well. Now I can just zoom it a little bit in. And you can see here is the animation. And now we are going to use this. I'm just going to duplicate this bush a little bit. Just spread it out a little bit. So now we have a few little decorations going on. I'm going to add a few rocks as well. Let's add this rock 1. I'm just dragging it in. It creates automatically the sprite for us. And I'm going to use the rock 2, rock 3, just randomly placing them here inside. And I'm making sure that they are in the decorations tab right here, so that we have control over them. So let's keep it like this. Now we have a nice little level or playground going on where our characters can live in. Let's jump right in and finish the player for now. For this, we need to add an animation. Let's call it idle, and let's add another one, call it run. I'm going to set it to 10 FPS each. Yeah, and now we start with the idle animation. I want to go to assets, units. We are going to play a blue unit, an archer. Here we are going to look for idle. This is the idle animation. Now we can hit the auto slice button and select them in order, add those 6 frames. For now, just hit the autoplay on load button as well. Now let's prepare the run animation as well. Just select the run animation right here, hit auto slice, select them in order and add those 4 frames. Yeah, this is what we are going to do for now. For the player, I'm going to add it to the scene and I'm going to create a new node to the, let's call it units. I'm going to instantiate this player scene as a child scene right here by hitting this button. And now we have access to all the scenes we have created. And we can put it inside of this scene. I have the player right here. I can put him here in the center and play the scene. And you can see he even has a little idle animation going on. Now let's prepare the enemies next. The enemies will have an idle animation for now and also a walk or run animation. The same thing. Run. Make it 10 FPS each. And I'm just going to hit the autoplay on load for idle, just so that we can see something without writing code. And now I'm going to start with the idle animation. The blue units fight against the red units in my universe. We are going to pick the warrior for now. Let's make warrior idle. Zoom out a little bit and select them. Take the run animation as well. Run, run, run. Here is the run animation. Hit auto slice. Select them. And that's it. We have prepared it. And now we can add it to the units section right here by instantiating it as we did with the player. Now we can add a few enemies. I'm just going to copy those enemies like this with duplicating, or and right click, copy it here, copy. Yeah, let's leave it like this. This instantiation button is really powerful because if we don't want them to be warriors, we can just switch it inside of this one enemy scene. For example, we can delete all of this and switch it to the monk. Choose this. The idle animation as well. And just use the monk instead. And now with little effort, we changed all the enemies inside of our game to be a monk instead of a warrior. This is very powerful. This is the feature of this instantiating child scene game right here. You can always go back to it using this button. But yeah, that's it for now. We prepared the enemies for our game. Now we can run it again. You see everyone has its little animation going on. The idle animation. Yeah, looks good so far. Almost like a little game. Now the last thing we are going to prepare is the arrow. We just need a sprite. For this I'm going to use this button right here and type in arrow. And I'm just going to select this arrow right here. And you can see the arrow is a little bit larger than our collision shape. I'm going to rotate this collision shape like this. Give it 90 degrees. And now I'm going to make it so that it fills out this arrow. Something like this. Now we have created all our individual units we need for our game. We have the playground, we have a background, we have a level we can play in. We have animations going on. We have even decorations. We have an arrow, we have the player, we have enemies. Now we have our scenes that we are going to need for this little prototype in place. So now all the editor work is basically done by now. Let's jump right into code. I want to start with the player. I want to make him move and being able to shoot. Yeah, that's it for now. So I'm going to go to the player scene right here and attach a script to the player. Hit create. I'm going to save this real quick. Now the first thing we want to do is go to the project settings and customize the input map. We will add actions for move right, move left, move up, move down. We are going to specify keys that those commands, those actions refer to. Move right, I'm going to hit the right arrow key, and I'm going to also use the D key. So right is either D or the right arrow key. I'm going to do the same for left, up, and down. So that's it. And because we know we want to shoot something, we are going to add a shoot action as well. And I'm going to set it to the space bar. I'm going to make it when we click on the mouse. Left click. So that's all the actions we are going to need. And we can get this input inside of our code now. For this, I'm going to use the physics process function. And I'm going to start to write a little bit of code. Before we start this, we are going to declare some variables. For once, we need direction. And this is going to be a vector 2. The starting value is vector 2.0. So this is what we are going to need. And we are going to need a move speed var. Move speed, we set it to float. Let's make it 200 for now and see what happens. Now we are going to get the input and set the movement. Let's make it simple. You think about it as move the player. So this is what we are going to do now. At first we are going to set the direction to be the input get vector. We are going to use all of those commands. We need to start with move left, then move right, then move up, move down. Now we can print this real quick to see what this does. Direction. Let's print this. I'm pressing the keys now. Right, left, up, and down. Okay, it is working. This is all what I wanted to figure out. And now we need to set the velocity. This is a pre-built property that comes with the character body2d. We are going to set it to direction times move speed. That's it for here. And now to make this really work, we need to call the move and slide function. Now let's check this out. I'm hitting the keys and yeah, the character moves. I can move now. This is really awesome. Cool. That's it. Move the player is achieved. The next thing we are going to do is to handle the animations. This is what we are going to do right here. Handle animations. We want the player to play the run animation when we move and play the idle animation when we are not moving. And we are going to do it like this. If the velocity is equal to vector 2.0, so not moving, we get the animated sprite 2D and we are going to play the idle animation. Else, so if velocity is greater than 0, which is the case when we move the player, we get the animated sprite 2D node and play the run animation that we have prepared. Now let's check this. And as you can see, if we walk, the run animation is played, and if we stand still, the idle animation is being played. So yeah. That's it for handling the animation right here. And now we are going to think about the shooting arrow stuff. Let's make this work. We want to press the spacebar or the left mouse button and then shoot an arrow. To make this happen, we need a reference to this arrow scene inside of our player script. We can do this by arrow scene, make it a packed scene, and just export it to the inspector. And now we need to write export correctly. And now we can just select via quick load the arrow scene. And from now on we can use this arrow scene inside of our script. And now I want to prepare a shoot function. We write a little custom function right here. Call it shoot. You can call it shoot arrow. It will return void, so nothing. What are we going to do? We are going to instantiate. What are we going to do? We need to create a new arrow. We are going to do it like this. Arrow, and set it to arrow scene.instantiate. So we are going to instantiate an instance out of this arrow scene right here. Set the position arrow.position to be the position of the player. When we have done this, we get the tree we select the current scene and we add a child node to it. What we want to add is the arrow that we have created right here in this line. We need to call this function, because if we didn't do something now, it would not work. We need to actually call it. We just declared this function. Now we are going to do this, shoot arrow, and we are going to use the input singleton again. We are going to use it a little bit different right now. If input is action just pressed, and call it the shoot action that we have prepared in the input map right here. It was called shoot. If this is happening, we can print it out, print shoot. And now let's test it. And we can see whenever I press this, the spacebar or the left mouse button, we get a print statement here with the string shoot. So it is working. And now we just call the shoot arrow function that we have created. And now let's see what happens. And now I can kind of shoot arrows. But something is off. It is, they ain't moving. They need to move. Arrow needs a script. To move, it needs also a direction. We make it a vector2 and set it to vector2.right, because we want to shoot the arrows to the right. We need also a speed. Let's make it float, and let's make it something like 500. A little bit faster. In this one, as the area2d node has no built-in velocity, we need to create it velocity. Let's make it vector2 as well and set it to vector2.0. This is all the variables we need to create to make this arrow actually move. Now let's do this. Use the physics process function again, and let's make it work. We need to set the velocity to direction times speed, and in this case we need to multiply by the delta value as well to make it frame rate independent. We need to set the position to the velocity each frame, every frame. Let's see what this does. We can check this arrow scene individually. Let's check only the arrow scene, and you can see a little arrow is flying to the right now. We need to reset the position now to be 0, 0. This is important. Remember, you can play the current scene by using this button or the shortcut. And now that we know it works, we can run the whole project and see if we can shoot arrows now. And as you can see, oh yeah, we can shoot arrows. Isn't that cool? We have a small little problem, and I want to fix it right away. If we shoot arrows like this, then all of those arrows will be inside of the game forever. We need to actually delete them when they leave the screen. So if we look in the remote tree, so the actual game, we see we have a lot of arrows. This is all the arrows we did shoot. This is... They stay in the game forever, but we do not want this because this will eat up our computer's memory. So we need to delete them as soon as they leave the viewport. There is a node for this. We can use the notify visible on-screen notifier 2D node and use its screen exited signal connected to the arrow. So when this node, this little rectangle, leaves the viewport, this visible on-screen notifier sends out, calls this function, or then this function gets executed. We can use this. Let's print it out what happens. Arrow left screen. So let's see this live. As soon as the arrow leaves the screen, we get this notification right here. And we can use it to just delete it. Deleting in Godot is using the queue-free function. And now let's check again. I'm going to shoot a lot of arrows. And let's see if we still have them inside of our remote tree. And we can see the arrows are all away, deleted, and we have a clean scene tree right here. Now I want to give the enemies the little HP bars you have seen in the demo, actually make it work so that the arrow can hit those enemies. So let's do this. To do this, we are going to jump to the enemy script and attach to the enemy scene and attach a script to it. We are going to use the power of variables to create a health pool for those enemies. Let's start by adding the nodes we need. We are going to add a new node, the progress bar node, and the progress bar node is really nice. You check this off, and now we are going to drag this a little bit above the head. Yeah, and make it something like this maybe. Put it in the middle, in the center somewhat. Yeah, I think maybe a little bit smaller. Okay, this is cool. What we have here is a max value and a current value, this right here. And we can set it to something like this. And you can see this is like a little progress bar. We can theme it by using the theme overrides and using the styles. We need to create a style box flat for both of them. Now click on them. I'm going to select a red color, a darker red color for the background, and a lighter red color, or yeah, stronger red color for the foreground, or the fill color. And now you can see this is our little health bar. Calling it health bar like this and save it. Now we can jump into the code. We need two variables for the health system to work. We need the current health, make it a float value and set it to 0. We need the max health, set it to float and make it 100. We are going to write a little helper function called update health bar, and it will return void, so nothing. And we are going to grab the health bar, grab the value property of it and set it to current health. We grab the max value of this health bar and set it to max health. Now we are going to use the ready function to initialize all of this and set the current health to the max health so that we start with 100 health. After we do this, we are going to call this update health bar function, this little helper function that we did. And this is initialize the health bar. Let's check it out in our game. We can see indeed the enemy characters start with 100 health. We can check it out. We could delete it and make something like 30. And now you see they all start with less than max health. Oh, we want max health. So we want to start them with full health. And now the next step is we want to make them feel the pain. We want to hit them with those arrows. For this, we are going to prepare another function right here in the enemy script. We call it take damage. We need those enemies to be able to take damage. We use the parameter damage of type float, and we return void current health minus equals damage. So we reduce the current health by the damage. After that, we update the health bar so that we see those changes on the health bar. We are going to add if the current health is lower or equal to 0, then we just delete this enemy. To really make it work, we need to make the enemy and the arrow somehow feel each other or recognize each other. We do this by using the physics engines. Let's make a little setting right here. Scroll down to the physics, to the layer names. Physics 2D, call this layer enemy. This will be our enemy layer. You will see what this means in a second. Now we can add a area 2D to the enemy and call it hurt box. Or let's make it hurt area. This needs a collision shape 2D. Let's make it just a circle. And to make it more visible that this is the hurt area, I will make it reddish. So this is the area the arrow needs to go in to actually make the player hurt. For this, we are going to set the collision layer to be the enemy layer. And the arrow needs to know what it will look out for. We need the collision. We need to look out for the enemy layer. This is what mask means. In the physics world, now this is an enemy. And in the physics world, this arrow looks out or watches for enemies and can collide or interact with them. We are going to use the area to these area entered signal connected to the arrow. And as soon as this happens, we can print this out again. Let's check this out. And as soon as we hit an enemy, this gets executed. So now we have a method to actually hit the enemy. The arrow is inside of this hurt area right here. Then we get a message. Then this function here is executed, the signal. And all we need to do now is to connect all the dots. We are going to use this area that we get inside of this area entered. So this gets called and we get the area that this arrow is colliding with inside of this function, and we can do stuff with it. Now we are going to get the parent node, because this hurt area is a child node of this parent node, and we want to call the function that we have created right here, the take damage function of this one. So we need to get this. We are going to call the take damage function, and we are going to enter just a magic number. Let's make it 30 to test this. We can hurt these enemies. Okay, one little tweak. I do not want the arrows to be piercing. I want them to be destroyed when they hit the enemy, and therefore we are going to query them, delete them when they hit an enemy. We are going to check this out. Now they are not piercing anymore, so yeah, perfectly fine. To finish this little prototype, the last step is we need to make the enemies move. One step before we do this, we are going to clean this up a little bit. I don't want this magic number right here because I don't know actually what this is. We are going to add a little variable, call it damage, make it float. We are going to put it right in here. So now we know it's the damage. We could give it a default damage. Let's make it 5 by default. But I want the damage to come from the player. So I want the player to have something like, let's call it var attack or range attack power. Make it float and set it to 30. Now we need a way to put this range attack power inside of the arrow, and we can do it when initializing it, and we are going to do it like this. Arrow.damage property, and we set it to the range attack power. So now we just forward the range attack power of the player, because I want to have it inside of the player script right here. Just put it in the arrow, and the arrow actually takes it in, calls the take damage function of whatever enemy it hits. So the arrow doesn't care about how much damage it actually does. Yeah, this is just a little bit more organized. And now we are going to make the enemies move to the left. And therefore we need to make a direction variable, make it vector2, set it to vector2 left in this case, because we want to walk them from right to left. As we are inside of the character body 2D, we do not need to create a velocity because it is already built in. We are going to use the move speed only. Let's make it 100 and see if it is good. Now we need the physics process function. Physics, we are going to do our little movement trick again. Move the enemy velocity equals direction times move speed, call move and slide. This should be enough to make them move. Let's see. And actually, yes, this is enough. The last step is I want to make them look to the left because they look to the right. And this is easily done by using this flip age property right here. Just activate it and it just flips the sprite. I'm going to copy a few enemies. Let's grab the player and move it to the left and see how this works. we have built a little prototype where we can shoot enemies and have something, it almost feels like a game. You can almost imagine to make a game out of this. What I wanted to demonstrate is what you are going to learn inside of this tutorial series. So there is a lot to learn, and I intentionally did not explain every little step. So the challenge is for you to just copy this and make it work, and think about all the steps you did need to make this work. And as I said in the beginning, the focus is on how we used properties or variables inside of our code. So now you have a real-world example of how variables actually are being used inside of a real game prototype. See ya in the next one.